Hello, welcome to the Calling and the Climb podcast. I am Philip Hampton.
And I'm Kent Curry. And one of the things we wanted to discuss today is Phil's background is 26 years of starting a company without realizing he was starting a company.
True.
And then as it went on, that grew and became something that he realized he had to go from a one person business to a multiple person business to a medium sized company. And at some point, you started realizing you needed an exit strategy,
True.
and you've talked about how you should have started when you started the company thinking about an exit strategy, and that surprised me, frankly.
Yeah. Well, the reason I didn't plan for an exit strategy at the beginning, because at the beginning, I didn't know what an exit strategy was. If you had asked me in the first 5 years of my business, Philip, what is your exit strategy? I would have said, you mean how I'm getting out of this room? I didn't know what that meant. And
Sure.
it wasn't until years later in my business that I was even introduced to the thought of an exit strategy for an entrepreneur. And what that means, somebody that may be in a position that I was, you're building a business and you haven't even thought about an exit strategy. What does that mean? It means what happens to your business when you're done being the owner of it, just very
Okay.
simply. And
All right.
I think a lot of entrepreneurs are probably like I am. I was young, I was energetic, I was rolling up my sleeve and working, and I was thinking, well, I'll just continue doing this, and as long as the profits keep coming in and I can make a living and I can make my pay my bills, I'll just keep doing this forever.
Sure.
But that's not reasonable. That's not logical. You can't do it forever.
Well, you're in survival mode, right? And in some ways, at least two-thirds of every new business ends up being, going out of business. And so you don't know if you're going to survive. And then so how can you plan an exit strategy?
Yeah, it's assumed your exit strategy is gonna be you close up shop because you can't get any business. You try to avoid that exit strategy. So, an exit strategy for me meant when I get to the point where either by age or I'm tired of doing this or whatever, what happens to the business? And depending on the nature of the business and who you are, that exit strategy might look differently. If you, I know there are businesses that have been in a family for generations, and so they just hand it down to the next one in line, to the next one in line, and they continue on, and that's fine. And there are others that they will work for 40 years building a business and save along the way. And when they get done, they get to retirement age, they just close up shop and they've got some savings and they live off savings or retirement. That's fine too. My case, at some point in time along the way, I woke up and thought, wow, I'm having a great time, but do I really want to be doing this when I'm 60? And I
Okay.
thought, no, I don't want to. It comes with age because as I began to get older, I felt like, in the early days and even up, into my 50s, I felt like I'm on top of my game. But then I began to notice, particularly hiring younger people coming in, wow, they're good. Oh, they're as good as they're as good as me. No, they're better than me. And so the business that I'm in, technology, obviously changing every week, every year. And so
Right.
I realized, do I really want to be competing against these young bucks coming up when I'm 60 years old? And I made the decision, no, I don't. I want I want to get something out of this business while I can and then go on to something else. So I began to think about an exit strategy.
Okay. That makes sense, especially in your industry. Definitely. So there are several factors that have gone into it. Uh, your what was the status of your business when you started thinking seriously about it?
think when I really started thinking seriously, it was, we were celebrating our 20th anniversary, which I was so proud. We'd been in business for 20
Right.
years, and I was like, "Wow, that's, you know,
Yeah.
it's pretty amazing." And so we had a big celebration. We had a big gala. We invited clients. We invited, employees, and we began celebrating that. And it just felt like it was a turning point for me personally because it happened to be I also turned 50 that year. So there were a couple
Okay.
of momentous things in my life. 20 years of being in business, the same business, and I turned 50. And that's when I began to think, okay, I need to plan now for my exit. It's now I'm not ready to exit tomorrow, but I need to start planning for it. And one thing that made it very easy for me is that the business was booming. We were in a time of rapid growth. We had never done better. We were hitting records on revenue and EBITDA profit every year during that period of time. And so I'm like, you know what? I want to go out when I'm on top. So let's ride this wave to the top and let's see what an exit looks like. Now had no idea what it looked like at that point in time, but I began to think about it.
Now, what was going on in the industry? What was going like, in other words, was it just 50 and 20 and there's like time to start thinking about it? Or
It's-
had you thought about it before?
I had thought about it before, like what am I going to do with this business? And I had different ideas, but I think the 20-year anniversary was the critical point for me, and I had finally assembled a C-suite of, executives that were essentially running the business. I was still the CEO, but they were running. I had a CFO, I had a CTO, I had, actually a chief legal officer, and so I and
Huh?
head of technology. So I had all that in place, and I had really good people. So a combination of all that, I had good people in place, I had good leaders, we were doing well, and I turned 50, and I said, "Okay, the temptation is like things are going well. Let's just sit back and let this ride." But
Yeah, yeah.
I knew because I've gone through 20 years of business. So I've gone through times of growth and then times of stagnation a little bit and growth and down a little bit. And so I'm like, okay, it's good, but that doesn't mean times are always going to be good. So let's start thinking now about how to exit when we're on top.
Okay. So you, but that was like, what's the different the amount of years or months between when you started thinking about it and when you actually sold? What are some of those type of details?
So started thinking about it on the 20-year anniversary. I sold in the 26 years. So there were 6 years
So
between
6
the time I
years.
really started
Okay.
thinking
That
about it.
that was the math I was doing.
Yeah,
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 yeah.
26 minus 20, 6 years.
Yeah, yeah.
So that was yeah, 6 years. And I'm not saying that is natural,
Ideal.
ideal. I don't know. I don't know other businesses, but for me,
Okay.
there were some factors involved with that. Um, One of the things is that when I began to talk to some people that sort of advised me on getting ready to sell the business, I realized, and this is where you alluded to a comment I made earlier. I wish I'd started planning for the exit much earlier. Because once I began to think about it and I talked to some people that were consulting me on getting the business ready to sell, I realized there were some things that I had not done and some things that I had done that were not optimal to get the highest possible market price for my business. And it wasn't overnight. It was
Okay.
turning big wheels
Uh,
that we had to change in the way that we were
mm,
operating and so forth. Um, Another big thing that I had to do, and this is kind of a check on the ego, but I had to begin to work myself out of the business. Now, up to that
okay.
point, I'm I'm the big you take me away from the business, and there is no business.
That's right. That's right.
I realized at 50, okay, if I want to sell this in 2, 3, as it ultimately turned out, 6 years, whoever is going to buy us right now, they're gonna look and say, "Okay, you are the cause of," a lot of the big clients were my clients, people that I brought in.
Yeah.
And and again, I got some consulting on this, is there's certain types of transactions where people will buy a business from an entrepreneur, an owner, and they will say, "We want you to stay on for a period of time." And there's what is called an earn out, where we'll give you so much at closing, but then we want you, because we want to make sure that the business doesn't fall apart when you're not here.
Right.
So we want you to stay for a year, maybe 2, maybe longer. And part of your compensation for selling this business is going to be if it continues on even as you begin to exit out. So I am thinking in my mind, I need to start that right now. I need to start backing away from being central to the day-to-day operation of the business, because what I wanted, if we ever went to market, I did not want someone looking at Logic Force and saying, "This is critically dependent on Philip Hampton and his influence." My ego says, "Yeah, I'd love that." But the market price for my business did not like that.
Sure.
And so I actually brought in all of my executives. We had a big 20, like I said, we had a big 20-year anniversary thing. And then I brought them in a meeting, and I simply said, "Guys, we're at 20 years and I'm very proud. And some of you have been here for a few years of that, but nobody's been here for all of it. So where we are today is because of me. I'm just going to tell you." I said, "But the next 10 years, where we go is not going to be dependent on me. It's going to be dependent on you. And so, effective today, I'm putting the future of our company in your hands." Now, I wouldn't have done that if I hadn't known my guys, but I knew they were ambitious, they were young, they were smart, they were talented.
Okay.
And I knew that they were chomping at the bits to do new things, to expand, to do all of this. And so I wanted to let them know, I'm giving you an open door to grow this business in a direction that maybe we haven't gone yet.
Okay.
Now, one thing that I did, and I sort of regret, but I got advice on hiring sort of a seasoned CEO that had taken a business and taken it to exit and kind of knew the ropes. And so I got advice that, because I didn't know anything about this. Now,
Sure.
keep in mind, Kent, I didn't know anything about building a business. I didn't know anything about making payroll. I learned it. But I got to this point and I chickened out. And I said, "You know what?
Oh,
I cannot take it to the finish line." And
got it.
I sought out a recruiter and we interviewed a bunch of seasoned executives, really smart people. And I hired a CEO to take it that last leg. And that was the
Got it.
understanding.
And you became chairman
I
then?
became chairman of the board, but I
Okay.
essentially backed away. Now, this didn't happen immediately on year 20, but very
I
soon
understand.
thereafter,
Over time.
I began to work on that. And so I brought that CEO in, and this will possibly be a topic of another podcast, but it did not work. It did
Mm,
not work.
okay.
That delayed us at least 2 years.
Oh,
That move
okay.
delayed us at least 2 years. The other
That
things
really
that
didn't
delayed
work then.
us, as I mentioned, 6 years between when I started thinking about it, when it happened, that also happened. That was, we went through COVID. So the leadership crisis with the CEO that did not work out, and going through the COVID crisis. That COVID, obviously, we were planning on exiting in
Right.
2020, and then COVID hit. And so I told our guys, "Nope, shelve that. Let's just keep things running, try to keep our staff intact. We don't want to lay anybody off if at all possible." So we did that. So those were the things that I think moved it, made it a longer period of time between when I first thought about it and when we actually sold the business. So those were the factors.
Got it. And how did COVID affect the business? Was it
Well, we nobody knew. Obviously, nobody. There was so much
Oh, yeah,
uncertainty,
yeah.
and so when we first got the the information about the lockdowns. You know, can't even go to the our office building was locked down. We couldn't even get into our office building, and
Okay.
so we went to crisis mode. I got our guys on a conference call, and we said, everybody just work from home. Everybody check in, that sort of thing. Obviously, we're equipped with all the technology. We can do that. And
Sure.
the one thing that was helpful for us that we did not have to lay anybody off during that period of time because
Oh,
our clients were working with law firms. So you will remember during COVID, certain businesses were deemed necessary. I forget what they called it,
essential.
essential businesses.
Essential.
Law firms were deemed an essential business. And so
Okay.
our business actually, after we got over the initial shock of lockdowns and all that, actually grew during COVID because we had extra resources that we needed to make available to our clients so they could operate remotely. And so, and we picked up clients during that time, believe it or not, because they didn't have the capability to operate optimally in a remote environment. And we were able to bring that to bear.
Okay.
So
All
ultimately,
right. That makes
COVID helped
sense.
us. COVID helped.
Okay.
I shouldn't say COVID helped us. We maintained and even increased revenue through COVID, and that's
Right.
and the next
Right.
year is 2021. Of course, is when we sold.
Okay. Oh, all right. Right.
Yeah.
Right. Uh, so was there one particular catalyst that propelled you toward an exit strategy? Not the party, not the fifth turning 50. Was there something else that made you go, now I gotta lock in and hand this off type of thing?
Yes. Most definitely. I think I've talked about before how I've suffered serious burnout at one point and almost sold my business just simply because I got a letter from a random business broker. Ultimately turned that down. It was a lowball offer, but I was burned out and we had kind of just been hit a plateau of revenue, just couldn't kind of bump up to the next level.
Get over it.
Yeah. Now, I will, we often mention faith in this. During that time, I can remember being so frustrated. And I've mentioned before that I prayed about my business. And over again, I would say, God, show me how we can take this business to the next level. I don't think it's wrong to pray prayers like that. But I
Okay.
would pray over and over, God, I seem to be stuck. We're doing good, but we're not growing like we need to grow. And I have visions where I want the company to go and we're not going there. Help me to know how to take the company to the next level. So I prayed those prayers. So one day I am down in Memphis, Tennessee, and I'm doing what I have been doing. I'm trying to bill hours and make money. I'm slugging. We had a whole staff, good revenue, but it's still I'm working. And I was doing a
Right.
training for a law firm on some software that we were certified in, and I was down in Memphis at this law firm training them on a multi-day training. And I will say, I know you've probably done this, other people have done that. There is nothing more tiring than standing on your feet in front of an audience and being on for 8 hours and talking
Right.
and instructing.
Yes.
And so
Yes.
I had finished the day. I was dog tired, and I came to my hotel room and just plopped down on the bed, turned on the TV. The news came on, and there was a news item about a company in our area. I won't be any more specific than that. That was being raided by the FBI that day.
Oh,
And when I saw it, some can't explain it. Some I had no connection to this. I had no connections whatsoever. Something I saw that, and I'm like, something just clicked in my mind, and I'm like, those people are going to need a lawyer, and I work for lawyers. And just not even thinking twice, I picked up my phone and called an attorney friend of mine, a client.
okay.
Said, "Have you seen the news today?" Because it was top of the news. I think it made national news as well. He goes, "Yeah." I go, "Who's their attorney?" He goes, "I don't know." I said, "They're gonna need some legal help." He goes, "Yeah." So that was the end of that conversation, but just something clicked in my mind. No connection whatsoever. Few days later, that attorney walked in my office. He goes, I found out who their attorneys are. I go, who? He goes, us, talking about his firm. I go,
Yeah, yeah.
you're kidding me. He goes, nope, signed us up today or yesterday, whatever it was. That was the beginning of the next level of my business.
Oh,
How I
wow.
knew that? Only God. When I saw
Hmm.
that on the news and something clicked in my head, there was no reason to think that I would even have any connection to that whatsoever, but something clicked in my
Of
head and
course.
I made that phone call. A few days later, he walks in. We're the attorneys and we're hiring you guys to do all the data collection, hosting, everything for this project. Now, neither he nor I at that time knew how big this would be, but it was by far the largest endeavor we had ever undertaken. It would stretch us to the max. I had no budget for it. I didn't have staffing for it, but something in my mind said, Philip, this is the open door to your prayer about next level. Go. I knew it. I just knew it.
Yeah, yeah.
And I believe when you pray and you're earnest and you work hard, you don't just pray, God, send me new business and then just sit back in your easy chair. You still got to work. You still got to plug away. And I've been doing that for 20, well, at that time it was not 20 years, like 18 years. But
Okay.
that project was the beginning of growth that I had never seen in the previous years of my business. And what the thing that we needed the most to really grow the business and what I was so frustrated with because I knew where I wanted to go, but I didn't have the money for the marketing and for the, I guess, speculative resourcing that I needed to do. You
Sure.
can't go after these big jobs if you don't have the capability to take them, the big firms. I wanted to go to bigger firms. I wanted to sign up larger law firms, but you've got to have the infrastructure to handle it. You can't expect them to sign up with you when you don't have the resources, the people, and the resources to handle it. And but I didn't have the money to invest in that. And I'm like, I need some money so I can build up my capability so I can then go after um, these other businesses. And
Right.
this project was my money. That was my funding. I didn't have to go to private equity. I didn't have to go to an investor. I didn't have to go to the bank. I didn't know it at the time, but this project became my seed money to grow my business to the point that I could sell it at many times over what it was valued at that day. Many times over.
That's
Motel
fabulous.
room in Memphis, Tennessee. I wish I remember what the hotel. It was probably something on Priceline. I can't remember. I can't remember. But I knew it. I I'm telling you, Kent, it's uncanny, but I knew it. This is my door. Walk in it. And that was the catalyst that moved me to the exit because I knew this is my prayer answer. Take us to the next level. Now I'm at the next level. Now I want to exit the business while it's still up here at this level. So there you have it. Now, that whole journey lasted 8 years. Um, so that was year 18, I guess, I think. And
Yeah, that's what you
so
said.
it was a wild ride. I'm telling you, Kent, that was the wild ride. And I was exhausted at the
Okay.
end, but it was a sweet exhaustion because we did it. Maybe I'll talk
Right.
about that later. Um, I mean, I had to have some funding immediately to meet the immediate needs, and bank wouldn't loan it to me. So we'll talk about that.
Right.
How I managed. I was still
All right.
scrapping. Even then, I was still scrapping. But
Yeah.
unbeknownst to me, that was the start, the beginning of the end, as far as me getting to a place to sell the business. I think the moral of the story is there are moments that come both in life and in business. It's inflection points. You never know when they're going to come, but if you're prayerful, you can sense them. If you're prayerful and you're praying, God, lead me, direct me, Let me know. I want to go to the next level. And I didn't hesitate.
No, you didn't.
Yep.
That's great. That's builds my faith just hearing it.
Good.
That's Yeah, that's a great story, but it's also it rings true all the way around.
Yep.
God will reveal the inflection points. For you, you're just exhausted and turn on the news. For
Yep.
him, it's divine purpose.
Absolutely.
That's great. I can't wait to dig more into this exit strategy and the many steps you went through. Not everybody gets to go out victorious, and you did. So I want to hear more in our future episodes.
Sounds good. All right.